So if we're an administrator, show a control panel, with a delete link. Okay, now we need those actions. New action, delete by post ID. Only if we're admin, get the post, and delete it. Then head back to the index. And delete a comment. Pretty much the same. Get the comment. We didn't write a helper for that, so let's get it here. And delete it. And save. Okay, let's make a post to delete. We'll say January 15. It's a test. Let's try editing it. The date, the title, the tags, and the content. And they all updated. That's good. Now I'll add a comment. And delete the comment. And delete the post. And it's gone. Okay, now we can post, we can edit posts, we can delete posts, we can comment on posts, and we can delete the comments. So it's about time we fixed up that to-do item and actually check for our administrator access. Accounts are separate from posts, so we'll start with a new controller. I'm not too worried about security for this example, but we can at least avoid sending the password over the internet in plain text. So just as some quick background for what I'm about to do. A hash is a function that takes some input and generates some output. As long as you give it the same input, it will always give you the same output. But the input can't be determined from the output. So it's a one-way function. You can change the input into the output, but can't change the output back into the input. So if we just sent the password over the internet, anyone watching the data could just see the password and then reuse it, so that's no good. If we just send a hash of the password over the internet, it's no better, because someone could just intercept the hash and then reuse that. So what we want is something that's not the same every time. So we'll make the server send down a random number based on the time, and the client will combine the password with the random number and then send up a hash of that. The server will generate the hash the same way, and if the server's hash comes out the same as the client's hash, then the client must have known the password. If someone intercepts this hash, it will only allow them to log in if the server generates the same random number again, because different random numbers will result in different hashes. So that's the general idea. There's a lot of ways the system could be improved past a simple time-based random number, but we'll stick with this for the sake of example. So let's get to it. This needs to talk to the database. And the login action accepts a username and a hash. If the user didn't send a hash, then they're just requesting the login page. So we'll generate a new random number. (64-bit) and fill it in. Then we'll store it as a hexadecimal string. And show the login page. If we did get a hash, then we need to validate it. So we get the account credentials by name, and get the current random number. If the account doesn't exist, or we haven't made a random number yet, we just fail. Now we generate the hash. Input the password, combined with the random number, and output the hash. We'll convert the hash to a string, 1 byte at a time. And finally, the administrator is logged in if the two hashes match. Now we can head back to the index. Of course, we'll need a logout action as well. And it simply clears out the current random number and administrator permission. Okay, now for the login page. This page is generated using a string as its model, which is the current random number. The login form sends the data to the login action. And we need to ask the user for their login name. And a password. We'll store the random number somewhere that JavaScript can get to it. And make a place for JavaScript to store the hash when it's done. So instead of a normal submit button, we need a button that will get the hash from the password and the random number and place it in the hash input field. Once done, the form can be submitted. Now we need some JavaScript that can calculate a hash. Looks good. And what's the license? BSD. Okay, good. And there we go. Now that we have a hash function, we need to implement that getPasswordHash function. It's pretty straightforward. We get the password. And get the random value. Fill out the hash of the password and random value together. And then delete the password so it doesn't get sent up. Now when the user clicks submit, it'll calculate the hash and send up the hash instead of the password. This JavaScript needs to be included in the header, which is in our layout. So we'll add an extra section and make it optional. On most pages, this section will be empty, but on the login page, it'll have the login script and the hash script. We can give this a quick try. We'll go to Accounts and run the login action.